after spending a couple of hours just bobbing around doing 1.5 and God forbid 2 knots. It was very pleasant, but we've just put the sails away because we're only a mile or 2 away from our destination, and as you can see as I pan around here, you can see the rain is starting to build up. This is pretty normal. This is what happens in the afternoons now. You can see it's quite dark down there, so I would like to be getting into this place before it rains, because there is a certain amount of navigation required through some tight reefs. We've arrived and we made it before the rain set in as well. You can just see the clouds over there brewing up. Now what we had to do to get in here was a reef, which you can now see very clearly behind me. So we had to come around the outside of that. Then there's another little spot. It's like an exclamation mark. There's a little spot underneath it, which we had to come around. And we're inside this bay, and I checked on the satellite and we have a nice clear 200 meters between us and any part here. So we've put out plenty of chain. Basically means that if the weather comes in and it gets a bit shitty, we've got enough room to swing around. So feeling good about this. Anyway, what can we say? It's a beautiful little island, and it's got love in great big letters on the beach over there. It's very sweet, eh? It's a full moon today, which means we're on a spring tide, and the tide is falling here at the moment. And as you might be able to see, I've thrown on the long lens, try and capture the emerging spit of the reef there, or sandbank, whatever it is. And as I pan round, don't know how much of this you can see, but those little objects there are people, and they're all stooped down looking for, I presume, looking for clams or mussels or something. Well, in our meeting with Eskom last week, one of the things the main guy said was how they want to make this area the Caribbean of the East. And when you land in Dinawan Island, it's about as close as you're going to get to the Caribbean. It is just gorgeous. Just take a look at this. Now we're at spring waters at the moment. It was a full moon yesterday, which means there's quite a big variation in the tide, and as you saw from the footage last night, when the tide goes out it reveals all the spits and the reefs, and also this dividing isthmus here. So it's quite precarious walking through at high water because you've got the water coming in from both sides, but it's shallow enough to walk across. And out there Esper is anchored, looking beautiful, just like me. Just been chatting to one of the guys who works here, and sadly the resort is closed, and this of course is the result of the MCO. It's had a real impact on the tourism industry across the world, as we all know. In Sabah, a lot of their tourism is reliant upon China and South Korea, and of course a lot of those flights are locked down at the moment. So really the only tourism in the area, I think I've said this before, is local tourism. So what we do have here, we've got a few tents pitched on the beach, and we saw yesterday there were quite a few people that came out in speedboats. We're guessing it's probably local fishermen and their families that come over when the tide drops. They go down looking for shellfish of some description in all these reefs. So you see behind me here, patches and patches of reef. We're surrounded by reef and sandbanks, and so these guys come over and pick up the shellfish, and a few of them camp on the beach. Now apparently this island is privately owned, but if you look on Google, the beach itself is described as a public beach, so not really sure what's going on there. There's a few boats tied up already, there's a few buzzing backwards and forwards, but as I say, it's not tourism, it's just local people. I mean, what a shame. Look at this place. It is just amazing. It really is. Really has a Caribbean feel to it. And as I walk across this elevated pathway, there's birds flying out from underneath. Crystal clear waters. I can see straight down into the water there. Just stunning. So I've just made friends with Francis. This is Francis here. Although the resort is closed, obviously they've got skeleton staff here, and Francis is just going to show us some of the rooms. Now on the west side in the lagoon here, they have these brightly painted beach huts. They're so picture postcard, and he said we can go and have a quick look at them. Tell us about it, Liz.
It's so sweet, the beautiful beds. It's very simple, it's very charming, very rustic, but genuinely so. It hasn't been tarted up to look like it is, it really is. And what a lovely view. Look, look, come.
Wow. Just walking around the lagoon on the southwest corner, and on the shore here there is an abundance of lots of dead broken coral. I don't know how old it is, but there's obviously coral somewhere on this island. We suspect it's probably on the west side here. I was chatting to our guy earlier about the monsoon weather and how bad it is. Broken English, but he said that actually the waves get broken up by the sea, or rather the wall of rocks at the entrance to this lagoon. So these little chalets here don't get too much bad weather, and that's why they do say that Sabah is year-round tourism.
It's all made from coral. Coming in from somewhere.
What do you think?
Well, I think there's probably some out here. And maybe around the other side of the island, all the way around where there are no beaches. No, I could go and do some snorkeling.
That was the private side of the island, Dinawan Resort, sadly closed. So we thought we'd get a bit of exercise in and walk around the beach. Love the way your feet sink into the sand, feel your calf muscles working, all those other muscles that you never work on a boat. And as we came around, we saw this tiny little lizard. We thought it was a snake at first, but he actually tried to land on the beach, and he took one look at us and scarpered off. And as he scarpered off, we could see he had feet, so we're guessing it could be a baby monitor. Not sure. Anyway, this is now the public beach. There's quite a few boats tied up on the shore. There's a jetty and a few local fishing boats tied to it. But once again, we're doing our usual little thing where we come to a place like this and we work out how it could be developed. Kind of, you know, it's a bit perverse really, because this place shouldn't be developed any more than what it is. What they have here now is just perfect. Apart from these horrible inflatable things here, which are fine when they're in the water, but they've also lost a few and they're sort of strewn on the beach. But anyway, let's say they were to develop this to make this yachty friendly. How could you make it yachty friendly? Well, the first thing of course is that this has not quite 360 protection, but it does have a lot of protection because of these exposed reefs and spits that we've mentioned. Prevailing weather is going to come from the southwest, which is down there. This basically means that there isn't much in the way of fetch at all, because you've got the mainland behind. The weather can come in also from the northeast, the northwest and the north, and that's over there. So again, you've got quite good protection. I think if it came in from the due north, there's a channel through which the sea could come through. That might be a bit uncomfortable. But the anchorage itself is big. It's a very big anchorage. You could easily fit 10-15 boats there. I'm just trying to think how, you know, the tourism industry, the tourism board could entice more yachties to come here, because I think this really is a sort of it's not an undiscovered gem. I mean, everyone knows about Sabah, but in terms of boating, there is a lot to see here. And at the moment, the weather has been very good to us, and yet we're the only boat at anchor all the way up this coast. Now, of course, that has a lot to do with lockdown as well. Of course, difficult for people to actually get here in the first place, but really does have a lot of potential. And I think I can see us hanging around here for a lot longer than we originally planned. So let's see. Of course, that might all change when the shit starts blowing up from the southwest, which is what can happen. I might take all those words back and scarper back into the marina for protection, because it can get quite fierce out here.
Oh, this is a very precious time, because we didn't think we were going to be doing any sailing this year. At one point we didn't think we'd be able to get out of the marina until next year, and now it's July and we're allowed out. They haven't opened the borders yet, which means that all these places, these little precious little islands with their resorts on, are closed, and it means that we have the whole thing to ourselves, which we would never have had before. So there has been some good things for us, probably just us, when it comes to lockdown here in Malaysia, and I think we're going to try and enjoy every moment we can until the tourists start coming back.
It's early, it's really early, but today we're going on a little adventure. We're going to be sailing 35 miles up the coast, and there's a bit of wind coming over the mountains. It was Mount Kinabalu you just saw there. Let's see what happens.
Hi, it's me again. Changed our minds. We are not going to go 35 miles up the coast, because we've got a few things to deal with. We'll talk a bit more about that, I think, to camera in a little bit. But we are literally going back close to where we anchored previously. And I had said earlier that there was a bit of wind. There is no more wind, of course. It's completely still, there's nothing. But we still have a fantastic view of Mount Kinabalu. Take a look at this. Well, just a quick note on how I tend to navigate around reefed areas. I have the plotter here, but I also have my phone here. You can't really see the screen, but I'll do an overlay, and that shows the satellite data. These days I tend to put my waypoints in the satellite first, because it is that much more precise. And in fact, if I show you here, you can see on the chart plotter it claims that that is all reef. When you look on the satellite, I think there's actually even a channel through there. I then transpose those waypoints from the satellite onto the chart plotter, and in most places they tend to correspond with each other, but sometimes, as you well know, you'll find that the boat goes over land sometimes. One of the advantages of our setup is that we should be able to unfurl the main from the cockpit. So we're going to show you how we attempt to do this. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky with the lines are tight, but first of all we start off by pulling up the up haul, which is what Liz is doing, so it's nice and tight. This raises the boom up at a slight angle, which makes pulling the sail out that much easier, provides less resistance on the out haul. You shouldn't need to winch it, no, I think it should be okay. Next, so we've got these two furling lines, and it's actually one line, so we need to release the jammer on the furling line on this side, and then we move over to the furling lines on the port side along with the out haul. Now the other thing we should do is to release the kicking strap as well.
I have already done that.
You had you? Okay, fine. So now it's just a case of pulling on both the out haul and pulling on the furling line. The combination of the two together should unfurl the mainsail. So in this instance it's a fairly slow process, and of course we could speed up that process by standing up at the mast and pulling the furling lines just there. So one little trick I do is when it's out, obviously you've got a bit of bagginess in the sail, switch over the furling line, so you open up the cleat on the one you were pulling out on and close this one and pull back on this, and this furls the sail away back inside the mast by about a turn. This does two things. It makes tensioning the sail that much easier, but it also provides a wrap inside the sail. Sometimes when you're going into wind, the spindle inside the sail can rattle, so by keeping a wrap on that, it stops it from banging around. Next we have to let off the topping lift. This of course drops the boom. There we go. Probably didn't even notice that. And then finally kicking strap. So we pull the kicking strap down. This of course pulls the boom down at the centre. Simple, eh? So how did you find that?
Yeah, it was so much easier than it ever has been. It's good to know that we can do this, because when the conditions are really bad in the past we've had to clip on and go up to the mast, but we should be able to do it always from in here.
And if you're wondering why we've never done this before, one of the things that we have got is a new out haul. It's a brand new line which makes pulling that sail out that much easier.
This one.
Yeah.
Mount Kinabalu, it just dominates the whole of Sabah, and it's the highest peak on the island. It's over 4,000 metres, and we're 39 nautical miles away from it as the crow flies right now, and it's right there. It looks as though it's almost next to us, but because it's so high we can see it really, really well. It's normally covered in cloud. You don't often get to see the whole peak. This time of the day in the morning is a good time to see it. It is spectacular. I'm going to try and swing it up and round where you're standing.
Okay. Put him down there. Well done. Hey Liz, I want you to tell me all about it.
I haven't caught a fish for a long time, and I was just reeling it in because I thought there was a bag snagged, and it is actually a fish. It's very small, but it's enough for the two of us to have a barbecue tonight, so don't know what it is. Oh, nearly lost it.
Bloody amateur.
Not quite sure what it is. Some kind of jack. So it's a smallish fish, it's only about this big, but it will give 2 good fillets for us, and that's enough. We don't really need anything bigger than that. We don't have a freezer to freeze fish, and we have a full fridge, so to be honest, if we had anything bigger it would be quite difficult to store. We're not sports fishermen, we're just fishing to eat, so we're very happy. We've got a nice fresh fish for this evening. We might barbecue. I think that's probably what we'll do. The only sad thing is that Millie wasn't here to see it. I've been kind of dreading catching my first fish without her, but Jamie did all the jumping up and down and smiling for me, so that really helped me through it.
This evening we were supposed to be having fish on the barbecue. There's the barbecue, there's the weather behind. Look at that, wow, that's dark, isn't it? So we knew this bad weather was coming, and it's beginning. Oh, flash a light. And but it was really sunny earlier when we caught that fish. It was all happy, tra-la-la. Oh yeah, let's get the fish on the barbie. So Liz has prepared the fish, and she's marinated it in her usual double soy sauce, ginger, garlic. I don't know. We'll go down in the galley and find out what she's used. She also uses these bags as well. So for anyone out there who is interested in preserving foods like fish and what have you in the fridge, vegetables, that kind of thing, Liz has these special plastic bags which we use, which are reusable, and it just retains the freshness and it keeps the smell out as well. But anyway, no barbecue sadly, thanks to that. So we'll, I don't know, what we'll do, grill them? We haven't got a grill. What are we going to do with them?